Bro, I don't think Stephanie and Shane have a relationship at all.
Really?
I don't think Stephanie and Hunter have a relationship with Vince, and I don't think Stephanie and Hunter have a relationship with Shane. I don't.
People who like Japanese wrestling. Now, did you ever work in Japan? Did you ever have any like tours in Japan when you're in WWE or WCW?
Did I ever go there?
Yeah.
No, God,
no,
hell no.
Because I know that they had their. I mean, you were in WWE at this time. Well, you weren't even in WWE at this time. They had their. They had some Japanese tours in WCW back in the day, and WWE never had a Japan tour during your time.
Bro, the only time I ever left the country was to go to Canada. That's it. I did not go outside of Canada. I had no interest in going to the UK, anywhere else. The furthest I went was Canada.
What was it? They had their European events, and that was when they brought in the European Championship with Bulldog and Sean, I believe. You were around. It was around 97, 8 maybe.
That's probably around. Yeah.
Yeah. Your impact on the European Championship. How did that even come about from your recollection?
Bro, that's a very, very, very good question because I don't even remember. I honestly do not even remember how that started. I really don't. I wish I did.
Yeah, it was Michaels and Bulldog, I remember. Did anybody like root for Bulldog? Because his run wasn't the strongest toward the late 90s, especially compared to the early 90s when he had that match against Bret Hart at SummerSlam in 92. His latter run, and like when he joined the Hart Foundation, right? And I believe he was at Camp Cornette too. He was with Jim Cornette during your time there. So how did you feel about, booking Bulldog during that time?
I mean, bro, Bulldog was always a star to me. I mean,
Yeah.
always. I mean, he was always larger than life. He always had a great look. He always had a great reputation. I mean, he was always a star to me. So I never booked him not looking at him as a star. I mean, he was always a huge star to me.
Yeah. What do you think? There was a disconnect though toward that the 90s Bulldog versus the early 90s Bulldog. What do you think the disconnect was from?
Bro, if there was a disconnect, Chris, it's probably what the disconnect usually is. It's probably office. And it's probably contract or negotiations or, something else. Every time, bro, there's some type of a start, stop. It's usually the office.
Gotcha. Yeah, he went through a few things like the Camp Cornette, the Hart Foundation. Was that your idea? Was that somebody else's idea for him to join?
Oh, the Hart Foundation was I thought that was definitely over, man. I mean, when it was him, Pillman, Owen, Neidhart, and Brett, I mean, I thought that was very, very strong.
Yeah. Yeah, it did, but he was more of a tag team specialist at that time. I believe him and Owen were a tag team. Brett took the helm of being the leader in the world championship. And Pillman was a really interesting addition to that. It made sense to me because he, was a dungeon member. Do you remember who had anything to do with Pillman being the one, being another member?
Yeah,
of the
I'm sure it was those guys. Because you're right. They loved him. He was a part of their family. They wanted him in. Man, bro, it's just so sad. I mean, obviously, the untimely death of Pillman, but my God, we could have done some great, tremendous things with him and never, ever, ever had the opportunity. Man.
Did you ever see him as a world champion?
Probably not as a world champion, bro, because he was so character strong. You know what I mean? Whereas I don't think that really mattered. He had such a strong character and was so over as a character. I don't think that mattered.
I think personally, it could have worked, man. Especially with the angle between him and Austin. with he's got a gun, what I mean, and all that. Like, just imagine that being for a title. I mean, to your point, I mean, you and I differ as far as like belts, people not needing, but I think people who go into the wrestling business, their biggest goal is to be world champion. I do think that someone like a Brian Pillman has made such an indelible mark in the pro wrestling history that him being a world champion doesn't necessarily matter, but it is one of those like notches on your belt as far as your career is concerned. I do think that a feud between Pillman and Austin for the belt, man, that would have really been really cool. But the feud that we saw was amazing, man. It really was amazing. All right, let's get to Shane McMahon and be interviewed by TMZ. And he had this to say about AEW. He said, had a meeting with AEW and wished them continued success, but it's not WWE. It's not the company that I helped build, but you never know what's going to happen in this business. What say ye about Shane McMahon's comments at TMZ? He also threw a teaser in as far as Vince McMahon too when WWE.
Well, there were a couple of things in this interview. First of all, he said outright, they're not going to start another wrestling company.
Yeah.
He then said I don't think he said you never know in this business. He basically said AEW is not a thing. Mm-hmm. And then when asked about Vince McMahon rebuying WWE, that's where he didn't give a concrete answer. Yep. But I also thought, man, the good thing about this was it sounds like Vince and Shane have a relationship.
Yeah.
And that's good. Out of all this, man, they've had a really tough father-son relationship, but it now sounds at this point in both of their lives they have a good relationship, and that's good.
Yeah, it's interesting because that was the biggest thing that I gathered from this interview too, was it seemed like he was a lot more supportive of Vince than the stories that we've seen as far as them having a falling out business-wise a couple of times, actually. So it's good to know that we're going to see. Do we ever see Shane McMahon back as a character in WWE without Vince being involved?
No, not if Triple H is involved.
Really?
Yeah.
Never with Shane as a character. Of course, we got Stephanie. You think Stephanie could pull him in?
Bro, I don't think Stephanie and Shane have a relationship at all.
Really?
I don't think Stephanie and Hunter have a relationship with Vince, and I don't think Stephanie and Hunter have a relationship with Shane. I don't.
How were they working together when you were there?
You know what, bro? That's an interesting question. You never saw them work together. They were both working for the company, but doing different things. You never actually saw them working together hand in hand.
Interesting.
But I think Shane always knew Stephanie was daddy's little girl. I think he always knew that, man.
Just from a personal standpoint, because he's an older brother, you know what I mean? So you think from a sibling rivalry standpoint, did you ever have the feel that it was beyond the business as far as just some type of tension between the two?
Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt, because she was daddy's little girl, and no matter what Shane did, it was never good enough in Vince's eyes. So you had the combination of those two things, man, which made things really, really tough on Shane.
It seemed like that was generational because he felt like that toward his father too, as far as not, feeling like he wasn't good enough, and which caused a lot of his personality, I guess hurdles and issues, to a lot of regard. And it seems like he definitely passed that down to Shane being harder on him and tougher on him. He did the ring. He was a referee. He wasn't even his real name in the beginning of his WWE career, man. He was a referee by a different name.
Well, I don't even know if Shane would have been on TV if Ed and I weren't there. I mean, that was not Vince's idea. I mean, we wrote him into that show. We wrote Stephanie into that show as well. Mm-hmm. But I think Vince would have found Stephanie's way into TV. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he would have done the same thing for Shane.
Well, he didn't do it when he first came in. It was definitely one of those, hey, you're going to have to, I'm going to be twice as hard on you, because you're family. And I don't want that. I don't want to be that boss that feels like there's any type of nepotism or anything like that. And, you don't want to do that, which makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, man, why you got to make it tougher for Shane to, he doesn't even get your last name. He has to earn the McMahon last name when it comes to his career in the business, man. So
he wanted the last name, and Vince said,
"No yeet."
He said no yeet. That's exactly what happened, man. He said no yeet. So it'll be interesting, man. For those who are watching, put in the comment section. Do you think that we would ever see a Shane McMahon appearance, even like a Royal Rumble? Because that was the last time we saw him was a Royal Rumble appearance. It was still under the Vince regime. Well, it was still under the Vince regime, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was a couple of years ago. There was like an issue where he came in the Royal Rumble, and then they had him like speak in the back, and he had a little bit too much power stroke or something like that, and that caused a rift, and he left or something like that. So so we shall see. Do you ever think you always speak very highly of working with Shane? Shane is getting older now. He's in his mid-50s. And so do you ever think that we'll get to a point where Shane, 10 years from now, 20 years from 15 years from now, do you think if he was in a position of power like Vince was, do you think that he would start to show more shades of his father as far as that power trip?
I don't think he has it in him. I just don't think he has a hole in him, man. I just don't.
What do you think of the reports that we had a couple of years ago when he was there and he rubbed everybody the wrong way backstage?
That was because, bro, he was probably excited, nervous, anxious. You know what I'm saying? To be put in that position.
Sure.
And he probably maybe overstepped his boundaries without even realizing it. And I'm sure it probably had a lot to do with him being very excited and nervous at the same time.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah. Well, we shall see. Do you think that Shane McMahon will ever come back to the WWE in any type of character role, specifically like a Royal Rumble surprise appearance?
Only if Vince is involved, definitely.
Yes. Yep. I definitely can see that. It does. I think it would be a bigger shock if Shane was involved in something without Vince. I think that would be a huge shocker in the business. So we shall see. This guy right here is Vince Russo. I am Dr. Chris. This is Writing with Russo. Have a good night, everybody. Behind the Back Solo.